Hello and welcome to the Cultural Capacity Podcast. Happy Friday. I'm Kara Gonzalez Howard, one of your hostesses on the Cultural Capacity Podcast. Every Friday, we come to you with a new episode of the Cultural Capacity Podcast intended to share for personal development, professional development with your teams, or however you'd like. 1 week a month, and today is that day. We talk about workplace wellness specifically. So today's question is going to be addressing, how do I embrace where I am in the present? We try to keep our episodes below 15 minutes on normal weeks. Once a month, the last Friday of every month, we release a Cultural Capacity featured voice episode that carries us through the following month. And we kind of highlight somebody in our atmosphere that is doing great things in their work. For today's episode, I would just ask you to simply sit and be present with your thoughts, emotions, and let's dive in. We all have a role and responsibility to be living in our past, present, and future. And let me explain a little bit more of what I mean by that. Our past often becomes our roadmap of what works and what doesn't work, what is good for us, what does not serve us. The past is something we definitely need and want to pay attention to. It holds our memories of beautiful things that have happened in our lives. We hold these memories in our bodies, both traumatic and non-traumatic memories. Our past can often provide a pretty clear blueprint when we look back upon it as to what decisions we can make moving forward that maybe don't imitate some of the mistakes that we've made in our past. To not pay attention to our past and to reflect back on it from time to time would be foolish. We want to make sure that we're not getting stuck in our past, however. We all know those people who kind of go through life talking about the glory days, so to speak. Maybe people who think that they peaked in high school or college and believe that their best is behind them. This could be anybody. This could be all of us and is all of us from time to time. Sometimes we find ourselves stuck in our careers, in our relationships, in ourselves, and we don't really know how to move forward. And oftentimes, the way that we reflect upon our past can guide how we live in our present, and then also what happens to us in the future. Living and relishing in the past is not something that is healthy for anybody, I don't believe. Again, as a guidebook for our future, it is helpful to see where we've been and where we're going, but to look at any portion of our lives that we've already lived as something that we want to stay in, it's just not realistic. Life moves forward minute by minute, second by second, and our job as humans is to be present and prepare ourselves constantly for the evolution that comes with that. Now, for all you planners out there, let's talk about living for the future. Maybe you're the type of person who is always on 10, ready to go. Maybe you bring a lot of energy to the spaces that you go into. Maybe that doesn't come across as anxiety to other people, but more of an excitement. But maybe in your private life, you have a lot of anxiety around what the future holds and trying to plan out this perfect future and what that might look like. Certainly setting goals, visioning for yourself, putting things out into the universe that you would like to see happen in your own life are very practical behaviors, in my opinion. They bring us attention to our gifts and our talents, where our passions lie. They can make us mindful, these plans, of where we want to go, and we need to be taking the steps now to go ahead and do small things every day to move towards those goals and visions. So what I'm saying is, planning is not a bad thing. Having visions for the future is not a bad thing. It's just when we get in this loop of constantly overperforming and never sitting and looking at all that we have accomplished and enjoying the fruit of that, that we can fall into things like workaholism and really stretching ourselves to the max in our busyness and kind of spinning our wheels in different ways, maybe not ever reaching those goals that we set for ourselves for the future because of our anxiety-ridden present. Again, if you live well in the present, it really is about how you balance your past and your future goals to be present and work toward the things that you want for your life. Since the concept of being present has been fairly prevalent in pop culture and otherwise in the United States in the last 5 to 10 years, I think a lot of us have a good concept of how to be present, tactics we can use to bring ourselves into that presence. For some of us, that is waking up every morning and meditating. Maybe that's writing to start our day in the present. Again, if you don't set aside space for reflection, you are unlikely to be able to really live in the present moment throughout your day. It's a very intentional practice that you have to actually practice. I'm sure many of you have tried your best to sit in silence and meditate for 30 to 60 seconds and quiet those thoughts that enter your head, and it's very, very difficult. This requires practice again to be able to be present and kind of empty your mind of different things. This practice is very special because it allows you to recall it in your body throughout the day. And in those moments where you really want to take stock of what's happening in the moment, you really can come back to this methodology and really embrace and remember for later what's going on in the present. How many times do we go throughout our day and we're kind of on autopilot, and at the end we kind of do a quick replay in our mind of the things that we accomplished, maybe the things that we didn't accomplish. Maybe we spend time to beat ourselves up about those things that we didn't accomplish, and then it's harder to move into the next day. But maybe we don't even have any moments that stick out to us as particularly exciting or beautiful or joyful, and that's a problem. For myself and the recall of my day, I try to take a quiet walk in the evening and kind of think through or talk through with my husband and partner what that day looked like, how his day was, some things that were good, some things that maybe weren't so good. But it is a good exercise on if I was present during the day, I will be able to recall several things. If I was not present during the day, I probably will feel like the day was behind me and I don't really know what happened within it. The more consciousness you can bring to your thoughts and your thought patterns will impact how you create your memories. Memories can be created with different methodologies. Picture taking, video taking is, pretty big in our culture and society. Certainly those allow us to recall certain moments in time that maybe we would have otherwise forgotten. However, those are things we can shove back in a box and put away for later, and then we quickly forget about them. Something about practicing being present allows us to recall things in moments that we need to recall them because these memories are deeply ingrained in our consciousness, in our bodies. Obviously, if you're a person walking around in the earth, I believe that this type of practice and way of looking at life is very important to grow into, and not everybody can do it naturally. I am one of those people who have struggled with not being able to balance the past, present, and future very well due to different things in my life, and it has been a struggle at times to be able to balance these things. But when I am able to balance it, I know that my life is exponentially more beautiful and rich. And especially when I'm in my creative zone and doing creative things, I absolutely have to have some form of being in the present to be able to put out into the world what my heart and soul really want to put out into the world. As a creative, if you are not in touch with your spirit component, and the mind and body portions are also not balanced. It's very, very tough to put out valuable work into the world for others to benefit from, because if you don't know yourself and you don't know where you came from, where you are, and where you're going, it will feel like that within the work that you put out to other people, which isn't always a bad thing. People are where they are. People resonate where they resonate. There are people at all stages of this. To be present and in the moment, you have to be intentional, and it will guide your life in such a way and create a calm about you, about your demeanor, about your thought patterns and process that is unparalleled, but you do have to practice. It is something rare and beautiful to be in conversation with another human who is actually present. I don't know if you've ever been talking to somebody and they're kind of, twitching around, maybe messing with their phone or, looking off into the distance. Maybe they're not there with you in conversation. This is something that is a reflection of how we as a society have this go, go, go mentality. What's the next thing? What's the next thing? And this can even go so far as to hurt relationships at times if you're not good at this. If in your work you're trying to lead people or coach people in any way, shape, or form, you have to spend time daily to recenter yourself and be able to engage with people in an authentic, present state. To me, there is nothing worse than sitting down with somebody and feeling like they are not or can't pay attention to me because of whatever they've got going on in their mind. Sometimes if I encounter somebody like this, I will kind of cut the conversation short, to be honest, because it is very disarming to, be able to have a beautiful conversation with somebody and then, maybe you're just having the conversation with yourself at the end of it because the other person has drifted off, is not paying attention. I don't pass judgment on this kind of behavior at all. It's just something that we all struggle with from time to time because of whatever's going on in our lives. Now imagine this as well, this type of behavior in a parent scenario where you have a parent-child interaction where either the child is on their phone messing around, maybe the parents on their phone messing around, or, kind of staring off into the distance, not really listening. That's also a dynamic that is harmful for a parent-child relationship. And especially if you are a parent, it's something that we as 21st century parents need to be very conscientious about when we're engaging with our children and teaching them how to engage with others. Communication is certainly generational, and the ways that we communicate will change over time. However, when we actually form a bond with somebody, whether that's personal or professional, it is quite jarring to be in a situation where you do not feel like the other person is capable of being in the conversation with you. Practicing being present has everything to do with how we practice in our private time, how we are able to wrangle our thought processes and use them to enhance our lives and relationships. If you are in a place in your life right now where you're experiencing any kind of regret about your past, it's fine and good for you to look into that and to reflect upon it, but then to move past it. There's nothing that you can do to change your past. There might be amends that you need to make for different things, but other than that, there's nothing you can do to change anything, and it is not worth your time, energy, or effort to stay locked into your past. If you're that person that experiences high anxiety because you feel like you always have to be planning for something bigger, better, greater in your personal and professional life, I encourage you to stop doing that immediately. Again, you live with this constant anxiety in your body. That's what you're going to be putting out into the world, this franticness, this panic. And that's not something that's good for you, and it's not good for anybody around you. You end up often being the person who doesn't experience true happiness about any of the things they've accomplished in life. And many people who are in this state of mind are very, very successful people who deserve to be, have worked so hard to be in a certain place in their lives, and they will never feel the joy or the satisfaction that comes from meeting your goals because they're worried about planning for the next thing. Life is so wonderful in different ways. It can be very difficult in different ways, but it's so wonderful in that it ebbs and flows, and we are responsible for kind of riding out those waves and being fully present for the good, the bad, the beautiful, everything that's to come, in the best way that we can handle whatever is thrown at us. We do not know what tomorrow holds, but the best way that we can handle the things that come to us day to day is to always be present and always be sure that in our present state we are exactly where we are supposed to be. And if for some reason we discover we're not in that place that we need to be, we can identify it in the moment and make the small shifts that it requires to get to the place where we are supposed to be. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Workplace Wellness edition of Cultural Capacity for the month of August. Good luck going back to school if you're a parent. Get those kids ready and have a great school year. I hope your weekend is filled with activities of which you're able to be present for and enjoy fully. And we'll talk to you next week. Thanks so much for joining. If you haven't subscribed, you can watch most of our episodes in video form on YouTube at the handle @EducatorAid. Make sure you subscribe over there to support us in our mission. And if you're not subscribed on whatever podcast platform that you're listening to, please hit the subscribe. You're able to interact with us, leave us questions, comments, etc. Give our podcast a review. That helps us get our messaging out there to more and more people. All right, we'll talk to you soon.